Today I'm going to rank the villains in the Fallout series. First up, you've got Harry. Harry, I'm going to put him in A. I give him an A because he plays his role as being a big dumb brute really well. And he's a really hard fight for a low-level character. Like, I remember I couldn't beat him outright, and I couldn't convince him that I was a ghoul or a robot, so I had to put into all my skill points into stealth to sneak past him. So I say he's an A level villain. You have next up we have Tenpenny. Tenpenny, he's your cliche evil rich guy, so I don't think he's quite on the level of Harry. I'll give him a B. And also, I'm really not impressed with how he got outsmarted by Roy Phillips. Like, he lets this ghoul into his tower, and then the next time you visit, Roy Phillips has taken over everything. Alright, next up is Vulpes Inculta. I give him an S tier. To me, he has a very sinister voice, which really helps him to be a good villain. And overall, he's just very cold and calculating, and he's in control of the situation. And he's not just evil for the sake of being evil, but he's like a true believer in Caesar's philosophy, like how he explains it to you when you meet him in Nipton. Next up is President Richardson. I put Richardson in a C. To me, he serves his purpose as being the president of the Enclave, but I just think he's bland and unmemorable, and he kind of reminds me of what a real-life politician is like. See, there's Salt Upon Wounds is next. I give him a D. So supposedly, according to the lore, he's this brutal and effective war chief, but when you meet him, he cowers and begs for mercy in front of Joshua Graham. And I think that a war chief should show more bravery, even if he's being defeated. And I just think it's very anticlimactic, leading up to facing him in Honest Hearts. The Master, I'm putting him in S. And I would even put him ahead of Vulpes. I think he's the best villain in the entire Fallout series, and I think he's arguably the best video game villain, period. It's hard to describe what makes him so great. It's just he's such a disgusting abomination. You know, like obviously he's a mutant, but he's also a cyborg, and he has several different creepy voices that he fluctuates between when he speaks to you. And so I think he's S tier. Frank Horrigan, I don't think he quite lives up to being as good as the Master, so I'll give him an A, although he is still a very good villain. Yeah, he has a great cutscene in Fallout 2 towards the beginning where he kills a family ruthlessly. And yeah, overall, I think he's an intimidating villain, but he's not on the level of the Master. Colonel Autumn. Colonel Autumn gets a D. I actually like Colonel Autumn as a character, but kind of for the opposite reason of the Master or Vulpes Inculta. He just sounds very like lame and unintimidating and not in control of the situation, and like he doesn't sound very convinced by what he's saying. So he's actually kind of amusing as a villain, which is the opposite of what they were going for. You know, like if I had made Fallout 3, I would have cast somebody like Colonel Quaritch from Avatar to be like in charge of the Enclave. Like I think that's what the vibe they should have gone for over Colonel Autumn. See, we have Gizmo. Gizmo, I'll give an A to. He's kind of like a caricature of a greedy business tycoon, and he has one of the best death animations in Fallout 1, so I'll give him an A. President Eden. You know, he has a good voice actor. I'll give him that. But I still think he's a C. I thought meeting with President Eden was anticlimactic. And, you know, he was just like, you don't even need a speech check to convince him to destroy himself. So, yeah, so I just think for that he is a C tier villain. Alright, Kellogg is next. I think he's a decent villain. You know, like I like how he taunts the sole survivor. And he's also, arguably, he's the smartest villain on this list because he actually uses Stimpak when you fight him and heals himself in combat. But it's hard to take someone seriously if they're named after a cereal company. So for me, he's a B tier. Eulogy Jones. He's a generic villain, so I give him a C, but I give him props for having a cool hat. Lieutenant. I think that the Lieutenant is S tier. And the thing I like about the Lieutenant, like most of the super mutants are dumb brutes like Harry was, but the Lieutenant, he's an intelligent super mutant that helps the Master run his operations, and being smart only makes him more evil and more sadistic. And he's such an intimidating villain that when he captures the Vault Dweller, he's just amused by the whole situation. And so for that, I give him an S tier. You have Mr. Burke. He's voiced by Wes Johnson, so that's always a plus. And he's a cliche villain, but in a good way. Yeah, I give him an A just because I love how smarmy and sleazy he is. And although I do question his judgment on why he would hire a 19-year-old to detonate an atomic bomb. Like, it seems like if he's working for Tenpenny and has all these resources behind him, he could have hired somebody better than that. See, we have Morpheus. Morpheus, I give him a B. He has a cool backstory about how he was a gang member in the Boneyard before he joined the Master's cult. And he doesn't let you insult him or take any grief off you in dialogue. And he'll just immediately initiate combat if you insult him in any way, so I respect him for that. Let's see, there's Caesar. I give Caesar an A. I think it's impressive that he's more of a complex villain than just wanting power for the sake of power. Like, he has a whole philosophy he'll explain. He has a whole philosophy he'll explain to you when you meet him, and it just gives him more depth than most other villains do. Decker. I give Decker a B. He's the mob boss of the hub, and I think he plays his role well, but he's not. There's nothing that really stands out about Decker, in my opinion. Dr. Braun. I liked how sadistic Dr. Braun was, and it was kind of creepy how he dressed, how he disguised himself as a girl. So I would give Dr. Braun an A. Alright, so the Legate, I give him an S. Obviously, he's very big and strong and intimidating, and he's the best warrior in the entire Legion. But also, he's a skilled tactician, and he's good. He's also very intelligent, which is shown in the endgame dialogue with the courier. So, next up we have Asher. Asher, I give him an A. He has a very interesting backstory about how he was a low-ranking Brotherhood of Steel member that was left behind on an expedition, and then he You know, he's almost kind of like Caesar, how he united the raiders of the pit and built up the city. And he's kind of like he has a lot more depth than Eulogy Jones or the other slavers because he's using the slaves to do something good, like building up the city and trying to find a cure to the disease. So I think he's a good villain. Next up we have Benny. I'll give Benny an A tier. I I don't know. Personally, I never had anything against Benny for shooting me in the head at the beginning of the game. I just always liked him. And I like how much of a smooth talker he is and how slick he is. So I think that makes him a good villain. Let me know in the comments, uh, you know, if you agreed with me or disagreed with me, or how you would have ranked the villains. Also, if you're interested in supporting my work, I actually have a post-apocalyptic comic that I think fans of Fallout would like. It's about a group of mercenaries who find a cache of ancient technology. You can the link for it is in the description.